Okay, hello again. Welcome to our Wednesday lecture of week 2 on Southern California Indigenous groups. So remember, Southern California, again in scare quotes, Southern because not all groups of people understand or use direction in the same way that the global West does. Californian, also in scare quotes, because that term is only roughly 170 years old, at least in the terms of using it to the entire land mass of the state as it is understood today. And we are talking about Southern Californian indigenous groups in particular. We are talking about the Tongva, who still live in and around the LA Basin area. So as a reminder, week 2 this week is all asynchronous, so lectures will be posted by Sunday. You should be seeing this after Sunday, or maybe you're seeing this on Sunday because you are just really on top of it, and that is awesome. The weekly responses for the week will be posted there as well, and barring any disasters, by the grace of everything and anything, I will be able to answer email within 24 hours. If you do not hear from me after 24 hours, I'm probably fine. I may be made friends with like a bear, or maybe I ate some bad blackberry. I have maybe some misfortune befell me, but I am probably fine. I'm pretty sturdy. So, again, as a reminder, Indigenous Futurity is a movement in art, literature, comics, games, and other media. This first form was Walking the Clouds, an anthology of Indigenous science fiction that came out in 2013. But all futurity movements use tools of art to create representations of Indigenous autonomy or any minority autonomy. If in the cases of Afrofuturism and Chicano futurism, there are other futurism movements. These are just two other big primary ones. And they use tools to create representations of autonomy to critique their group's exclusion from the present. The song that, or the album rather, I was trying and failing to remember in the last lecture was not OK Computer, that is Radiohead for my elder millennial uncaffeinated brain. If it is music and it is computer, I will first go to Radiohead. But no, I was thinking of Janelle, not Janae, not Janae Monet Nikki, Janelle Monet's Dirty Computer. They are a revelation. They are uh, they are beauty. They are grace. They are handsome. They are wonderful. And I really enjoy this album, and I am embarrassed that I forgot. So yes, check this out for another example of Afrofuturism, and then of course the other good example is Black Panther and their depiction of Wakanda, especially. If you are interested in more indigenous futurity works, if you go to the website for Red Planet, that is red like the color, planet like a planet, Red Planet Comics in New Mexico. Their website is for their comic book shop that is completely indigenous owned and features primarily indigenous work, especially indigenous comics. I've never been to the place. I am hoping to go there later this summer to visit some family in New Mexico. But yeah, if you want more information, check them out. You can check them out on social media too. They post lots of recommendations. And also, um, you know, email me. I know I have some good recommendations, but for the most part, whenever I'm looking for more specific recommendations, I go to Red Planet, at least their Instagram page, and I will hit them up if they have anything of interest to me. So today we are talking about the Tongva. Depending on who you talk to, they may also prefer to be called the Ki or the Gabrieno. I'm missing the Enya on the end. My apologies. This is a map of their traditional area. Look at the swordfish so happy. Look at the dolphins potting. Look at a tummel that is not a tummel. It's actually a teapet, I can't say it exactly. They have a similar wood seaworthy boat with I will not bore you with the details, but they also have been a seafaring people as well. So something to consider, and something I'm asking you to do in the weekly response for this week, if you so choose, is to acknowledge the first people of whatever land you're on. So this is a map of California and California's different groups who have and continue to live in these areas. But you may not be in California right now. You may not be in the US right now. And for the most part, I believe that this website, nativeland.ca, can tell you where you are just by putting in your address or at least your town. The LA Unified School District also has an Indian education program. So if you are in or around LA, you can also go there for their information, and when things open up even more, their programming. So their traditional lands are in Los Angeles County and parts of Orange County, particularly northern Orange County. The tribe has been indigenous, so native to the LA Basin for 7,000 years. So there's also a state historical site that preserves the Holy Springs where the Portola expedition, we talked about him, which founded the city of LA in the late 1700s and replenished Tongva water. So the expedition encountered the Tongva, who guided them to their holy springs, and this area is now known as University High School in West Los Angeles. If you have ever been to West LA, or maybe you even went there, you may even know more about that than I do. But I thought that was an interesting little factoid. There are many Tongva villages that are now occupied. So the Tongva occupied villages to the north, up to Topanga Canyon in Malibu, where they ran into the Chumash, and we talked about, and sometimes they did violently. So Tongva villages extended south to the Laguna Beach, the land that is now Laguna Beach, through the Guaneños. Claimed that the Tongva never settled beyond the estuary at Newport Beach. So just in these two sentences, we're seeing some different groups disagreeing about history. Tongva village sites extend inland to the San Bernardino Mountains. They're the younger, independent Kalula culture. Kalula live around Palm Springs and like the Morongo area. Kalula culture was derived from roots in the religion, language, and trading culture of the Tongva. So yes, around Palm Springs, Morongo and Agua Caliente are bands or kind of subgroups of the Kalula. So how do we know all this? Obviously, oral tradition and understandings within the groups themselves, which we should always understand and respect. But we also have other information as well that speaks to this, such as archaeological sites, state historical records, federal archives, and then mission archives through the Catholic Church at both the San Gabriel mission and the San Fernando mission. So their worldview. This is a harder to answer question and something that I personally do not know as much about as I do from working with the UROC. But this was a quote that I found from a Tongva educator, Craig Torres, who says, "The name Tongva comes from a word in our language which means the earth or the land or one's landscape. So it translates to people of the earth." So in Tongva stories, they originated here. They didn't come from any land bridge. Um, they got they got where this is where they are from. So yeah, I bungled it trying to change the pronouns for me saying this, but according to Craig Torres, that the Tongva stories, they quote, "Originated here, didn't come from any land bridge. We get here, we get where this is where we are from." So they just came from here. There isn't any other way or explanation needed. They, the Tongva, are just the land. So um, when talking about the colonization and settlement of the area that's now LA, we're going to see most of the same cast of characters that we talked about on Friday in talking about the history of Santa Barbara and the Chumash. So we have Cabrillo, we have Gaspar di Portola and Father Juan Crespi, and of course, we have Father Junipero Serra, because we have the mission system. And so the missions in the Tongva area are the San Fernando Rey de España and San Gabriel Arcangel. So these two are on the Tongva land. You can see pictures here. Again, that same kind of architectural style. Yeah, we have to note that the mission son, Gabriel Arcangel, actually had a fire a few years ago, and they are I believe they finished rebuilding it, at least the outside. Um, yeah, I believe it was just a California fire incident. However, more and more related to calling out the injustices of the mission system, there are and have been and will likely continue to be um, different vandalization and potentially arson of these places where a lot of murder happened and colonization happened. And I say this as a Catholic myself. So I don't remember if the courts found that this was arson, but I believe it was part of a fire event. So with the Tongva, a very similar progression of history as the Chumash. However, there are different kind of treaties that we need to talk about because Los Angeles, especially the Los Angeles Basin, is a highly urbanized area. There are parks, sure, yes, but for the most part, most areas are very urbanized or suburbanized. So a bit different than the Santa Barbara area, where while there is urbanization and suburbanization, there are still masses of land that do not have houses or stores on them. So anyway, this difference is partially because of different sets of treaties that the U.S. government made with the Tongva. So in 1851, 1853, so very early on in California statehood, 3 U.S. government treaty commissioners appointed by President Millard Fillmore signed these 18 lost treaties, as the Tongva call them. And this was setting aside 8.5 million acres in California for Indian reservations in return for the Indians' quit claim. So just very quick giving up of 75 million acres of California land. So in which they were paid very little, I believe 7.5 cents per acre. So the 18 lost treaties and along with the enslavement by missionaries and early settlers, government-sponsored genocides, which we talked about, against tribal groups, and then again 1851 Indian laws. So this led to Indian child theft, so adopting Indians to or Indian children to white families, for example, and also slavery, are just some of the examples of the savagery exercise sponsored and condoned by the state of California. This is furthered with different California law, another kind of snapshot of California law meeting the Tongva is California Jurisdiction Act of 1928. So based on the rediscovery of the 18 lost treaties in 1905, a series of efforts were made to address the treatyless Gabrieno tribe, or at least to compromise its claims to land in LA County. So this act, the California Jurisdiction Act of 1928, authorized the California Attorney General to represent the Gabrieno tribe, among others, and to hopefully bring their land claims before the U.S. Court of Claims. This was made even more contentious and necessary after World War II because there were many sacrifices of Native American soldiers made through serving in the U.S. military, and during that time, payments that were made to the Tongva and other groups were seen as inadequate. There was another effort to settle land claims under new legislation in 1946. So this Indian Claims Commission addressed the claims of the Gabrieno tribe in Docket 80, where the Gabrieno group was treated as an Indian tribe, but only its members were named as plaintiffs. So they were not named as a group, they were named as individual people. So this would appear to a modern lawyer to eviscerate the effectiveness of land claims of the settlement, which addressed only the claims of individual folks and not the actual claims of the group itself. So this information was actually taken from the Tongva history website, so set up by the tribe. So their words here, they are describing themselves as Indians, and they're using the term tribe. And again, this is a reminder that names and words matter, and we follow the lead of people from the groups that we are talking about. So this continues, and in 1959, the Court of Claims entered a final order recognizing the Aboriginal, so the quote-unquote Indian, the quote-unquote Native American title of the Gabrieno tribe and other California tribes to 64 million acres west of the Sierra Nevada range. So the tribe's title was recognized, and $633 was paid to each Gabrieno in 1972 as part of the efforts to adjudicate the two land claim payments in 1944 and 1972. Hundreds of Gabrieno tribal members were recognized as Gabriano Indians on each of the Bureau of Indian Affairs California Indian Rolls of 1928, 1950, 1972. That is important because that is in this system of the US and California, that is legal power. So federal recognition. So state recognition goes to who the Tongva are for, but it's only one tribe that is recognized. So that there are different bands, as we noted, but only one can be recognized. So any attempt to separate the Tongva into different bands might be helpful for those who are interested in multiple casino locations. So this is really useful for thinking about surviving in the 20th and 21st centuries and on. But recognizing several bands instead of one nation would be contrary to California's public policy. So we can see here California, each state, but California having so many different groups, as we saw on the map earlier, each state has different laws that create different legal frameworks in which these groups have to operate. So state recognition accompanied by substantial rights is appropriate for the same reasons that California has. So without federal approval, undertaken separate pollution control standards and other statewide initiatives. So we in California have a unique history, and this includes a savage side against again, these are the words of the Tongva, not me, rather docile Native Americans. So yes, I use the wording from the website on these last two slides in particular because I think it is important, like in letting the Seaxton Story Circle members speak their truth. I think that it is also important for the Tongva in this case to speak their truth on this, because it is messy, because it has been, will likely continue to be fraught. Yes, so I mean personally the savage side against against rather docile Native Americans line, I personally agree with, calling the US and the state of California savage. However, I know other indigenous folks, especially the Yurok, who would prefer not to call anybody docile, right? That kind of denotes or gives a sense of a lack of power. So things to think about, but especially when you're talking about a group that you're not a part of, you follow the group's lead and you share what they believe and how they describe what they believe and what they know. So the plot thickens, and in 1994, the state of California recognized the Tongva in an Assembly Joint Resolution 96, chaptered by the California Secretary of State, as Resolution Chapter 146, Statutes of 1944. So this is likely included in its completion, and I know, at least in the case of the Yurok fishers that I know and I'm friends with, they are able to say the exact location of laws that are specific to them, and on the website as well, the Tongva included this language as well. So I just wanted to include it here to mention that in order to create indigenous futurity, or any sort of futurity for my different minority groups, many have to remember specific laws and the specific locations of laws in order to fight for their survival. And remember, survival isn't just you are living and breathing, but it is having access to resources, it is having access to your culture, to living the way that you would like. There are many different aspects of living. So, this joint resolution states that the state of California, quote, recognizes the Gabrielino Tongva Nation as the Aboriginal tribe of the Los Angeles Basin, and takes great pride in recognizing the Indian inhabitants of the Los Angeles Basin and the continued existence of the Indian community. So, what I'm going to have you do, what I want you to listen to for the rest of this lecture is an eco-justice radio episode called Sustaining the Legacy of the Tongva Before and After Los Angeles. And I want you to consider these few questions. So, how does grandmother Gloria Arenas tell the history of her people? What does she include? But also, what does she maybe not include? Things to think about. Also, she does not say so directly, but what can you deduce she wants for her people in the world? So there are a few things to consider. Okay, our next lecture will be on English and Spanish invasion. Um, I foresee this being shorter because we actually have covered most of the bases now that I think about it. So we'll get it in talking about these um, different indigenous groups through the state. So we'll cover that, and everything will be beautiful, nothing will hurt, and have a great day. Take care of yourself.